to do something about it. You have to get involved. Now, Julie, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about while I've got you here, and that is the CIA torture report that came out. You want to go ahead and give some of your thoughts on that?
Sure. I'm one of those people who are glad it came out because I think the American people deserve to know what's happening in our name. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think transparency is a good thing in government to know what's happening. I didn't read through the whole report. I think it's just terrible, but I did see highlights or I guess lowlights on what is happening. It just looks just bad. I keep saying that word bad, but it's bad. I think that Americans, we need to be better than that. We're supposed to be this moral nation, and I think that we need to be better than that. And I think a lot of people are saying, oh, waterboarding, it's not a big deal. It's not just about waterboarding. I think waterboarding probably was one of the more minor things in that report. People being handcuffed, freezing to death. There was rape threats that were going out to their families, feeding them anal through their butts. I mean, that's awful. I think that as Americans, we need to do better than that. I think we need to demand better. And also, a lot of people are saying this is politically motivated. I don't know if it is or not. I think this is just the truth. That Obama is just droning people. I think that should be brought to the attention. I mean, torture is bad, but also droning people without any due process is bad too, because you're killing a lot of innocent people also. So I think both of them are just bad. I keep saying that word, but just bad.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't really a better word for it. I mean, you can put some colorful adjectives in front of it, but I think probably you end up in the same place. It's bad. Now, I do have a soundbite here. We'll try to play a little of it, of John McCain talking about the release of the bill. Just a preface here. The allegations that this was a politically motivated thing stem from the CIA being accused of and admitting to monitoring Senate computers on the Intelligence Committee. And they were allegedly trying to check and see if they had any classified data that they ought not to have had. But the people that say that because the CIA spied on Feinstein's committee members, that's why this came forward, it is beyond the point. It is not why this is important. Even if she had the worst intentions, she could be some commie American-hating terror, and it would not matter, because the bottom line is the CIA did these things in our name. Now, John McCain, obviously, a POW himself, was tortured by the Viet Congs in Vietnam. And so if anybody's got something to say, I don't usually like what he has to say, but I'm going to let him speak on this.
I have read the executive summary, and I also have been briefed on the entirety of this report. I rise in support of the long-delayed release of the Senate Intelligence Committee's summarized unclassified review of the so-called enhanced interrogation techniques that were employed by the previous administration to extract information from captured terrorists. Thorough and thoughtful study of practices that I believe not only failed their purpose to secure actionable intelligence to prevent further attacks on the U.S. and our allies, but actually damaged our security interests as well as our reputation as a force for good in the world. I believe the American people have a right, indeed responsibility, to know what was done in their name, how these practices did or did not serve our interests, and how they comported with our most important values. I know from personal experience that the abuse of prisoners will produce more bad than good intelligence. I know that victims of torture will offer intentionally misleading information if they think their captors will believe it. I know they will say whatever they think their torturers want them to say if they believe it will stop their suffering. We fight also for an idea that all men are endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights. How much safer the world would be if all nations believed the same. How much more dangerous it can become when we forget it ourselves, even momentarily.
I think that pretty much says it all. I mean, he would know, first of all, for having been tortured himself, I would argue worse than the CIA interrogation techniques, but I think it's important to note when you're doing rectal feeding and rectal rehydrating on top of simulated drowning, on top of solitary confinement for 2 months, on top of nailing people into coffins, on top of threatening their families, is that really something that you want done in your name? And I would argue most of you don't. Obviously, everybody was strongly affected by September 11th, and obviously it was a harsh time and something needed to be done. But we know for a fact that torturing these people yielded no new information. We know that that's been played up. We know that even the CIA, John Brennan, the director, admitted today that their review did not find that the enhanced interrogation techniques helped them get any viable information. They didn't rule it out, but he also said that there was no proof that they got anything valuable from it. So the question becomes, if it's not useful, if it's not necessary, do you or do you not believe that humans have a right against cruel punishment, against inhumane treatment? And then a lot of people come out and say, well, that's just a constitutional right. It's just the U.S. Constitution that protects it. The U.S. Constitution was written based on natural rights, rights that all humans are born with, regardless of whatever piece of paper governs their country. It's a natural right. And for those of you who support the enhanced interrogation techniques because of 9/11, I would ask you to look long and hard and think for a moment about if you want that sort of thing done in your name, because it was your name signing the order. The elected representatives that allowed it were signing your name, not theirs. That's what they're elected to do. Exactly. So, Julie, do you think this is going to hurt the country? This report coming out?
Hurt the country? No, I don't think so. I think it's going to hurt politicians, and I think that's a fine thing because they lied to us. I remember hearing that the torture led to bin Laden's capture, and we found out through this report that that's not true. It actually prolonged the search for bin Laden because if you're being tortured, you're pretty much say anything to stop them from torturing you, even if it's misleading. Probably if it's misleading, they'll say that. So we've actually found that people lied about where bin Laden was, and it prolonged finding him. So, like you said, torture, it's not effective, and on top of that, it's just not moral.
Agreed. All right, folks, we are at the top of the next hour, so we're going to go ahead and call it quits there. Julie, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Julie Borowski, Twitter, Julie Borowski, and on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel.
Definitely. And again, folks, be sure to like her page and check out her YouTube videos.